Let me say a very special good morning to all the media present here and those of you listening and viewing via live streaming. Let me thank you for attending this press conference. I'm Mervyn Paul, Senior Information Officer, and let me thank you for attending this press conference at a very short notice. Let me say a very special good morning to the Honourable Prime Minister, the Minister for Tourism, and Honourable Colin McIntyre, Minister for Economic Development. A lot of different portfolios in there. The Prime Minister this morning will be addressing the media on 3 specific areas, after which he'll be fielding questions. The areas are the upcoming donors meeting to be held in Dominica on Monday, the OECS Authority meeting to be held on the 18th and 19th, that is Wednesday and Thursday of next week, and also his recent trip to Southeast Asia. The Prime Minister will also speak to the commitment of the Chinese government in response to Tropical Storm Erica, and also the West Coast Road and the resettlement of those who were displaced by Tropical Storm Erica. Again, let me just remind you that the Prime Minister will be speaking specifically to those issues and will be fielding questions on those subject matters. At this point in time, let me welcome the Prime Minister to the podium to address you.
Well, let me say good morning, good afternoon to the media present. This is continued, and of course to the listening public who are listening and viewing the live coverage of this press conference. This is in keeping with our commitment to continue informing the press and indeed the nation on certain matters of national importance. And today, as was indicated to you, we'll be specifically looking at 1, the donors meeting scheduled for November 16, 2015, and 2, the OECS Authority meeting 18th and 19th of November, and 3, my recent trip to Southeast Asia, and I will speak to matters relating to the government of China and its assistance to Dominica post-Tropical Storm Erica. As you know, we've announced to the nation that we'll be having a donors meeting in Dominica with a view to informing the donor community of our continued efforts at recovery, and also to indicate to them the specific areas of possible assistance that they can continue to provide to Dominica. As you know, there was an overwhelming response from the international community for the emergency relief stage. After disaster, the different stages of assistance. There's immediate assistance to deal with emergencies. And then when that is settled, you will start talking about rehabilitation and reconstruction. And that's where we're looking at the numbers. As you know, what we did was to have engaged the World Bank to do an assessment for us, and a number of agencies supported that effort. We'll be discussing with the donor community. We'll be hearing from them on what specific areas they believe that they may be able to assist us. Now, it is not a meeting where people will stand up and say, okay, we'll give you 25, we'll give you 50, we'll give you 15. It is a part of a process. You must first inform, and then bilateral engagement will be entered into, and also at that meeting, guidance will be given to us as to how we can go about the recovery, rehabilitation, reconstruction phase. It's an important meeting. It is a meeting that's important, and a number of countries, agencies, and institutions have indicated their willingness and the intention to attend, and we look forward to a very fruitful and constructive discussion with them. So it is part of the process as well. The other point I would like to make is that we'll be hosting the OECS Authority, the heads of government of the OECS meeting here in Dominica on 18th and 19th of November. It is an important meeting. The number of serious matters taking place in the world, one of which is the upcoming COP21 summit on climate change in Paris, and we have to discuss and continue to ensure that we have a united voice there. and the number of issues within the OECS, the economies of the OECS that one has to look at and to continue the discussions on that. So it's a very critical meeting at a very crucial time for us, and we're very happy to be able to host that meeting. And I must say that my colleague heads of government insisted that Dominica host the meeting so that they can continue to show solidarity and support for Dominica. And of course, the hotels will have opportunity to have rooms, and that's one of the reasons also, because normally the donor meetings are held in Barbados because it's a central point, and most of the development partners reside physically in Barbados because the missions are there. The international organizations normally are based in Barbados, and it is easy for people to get to coming from different parts of the world and of course the Caribbean. But both ourselves and our partners have indicated you should host it in Dominica so that we can express the solidarity. Hotel rooms can be filled, the taxi operators can benefit, so that it is assisting in the economy of our country. So this week will be a very busy week for us in Dominica. We'll be receiving several of our friends and partners to Nature Island, and to ensure that we can continue to extend the hospitality that we are well known for. So these are two critical meetings. I must say that the OECS Authority, the OECS Commission, the heads of government of the OECS have been of extreme support, not only in a material way, but also in an emotional manner, and providing the support and being in touch on a regular basis to give the moral support that's required at this time. The third point with regards to my recent trip to China, to Southeast Asia, I must tell you that there are tremendous opportunities for Dominica in Southeast Asia. It is it's an emerging market, huge populations, a wealth of natural resources, and great opportunity for business for Dominica. And the response there was overwhelming, particularly with regards to our citizenship by investment program. As you know, we've had the program since 1993. We continue to promote it. We've made significant changes in the program over the last year, all of which we have enunciated in various budget addresses and statements given by the government from time to time. And people are keen on the product which Dominica is offering, and I believe that in the next 6 to 12 months, 18 months, we will see increased business coming from to the Citizens by Investment program on both fronts. As you know, we have two elements of the program. One has to do with the cash contribution to the country, and the other has to do with the real estate arm. And as you know, we've approved fully one project that is broken ground for this, 160 rooms. That's the Kempinski Hotel, and we have several other projects that we will be approving in the next couple of weeks. So this will be continued interest. And I've always maintained that while the program is important to us from a financial standpoint, we have to ensure that we continue to maintain the robustness of our due diligence process. And also, you will have gotten a copy of my speech, which I circulated post my address in Asia. And some of the things which I highlighted, which I said at those conferences which I attended in Thailand, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. And these are some of the things which I said to the persons who were in attendance. I said, for example, we are acutely aware that the quality of projects approved under our Citizenship by Investment program will have an impact on the reputation of our program. We therefore eagerly welcome project developers and promoters and stand ready to facilitate them to implement successful projects. We are, however, very selective in the approval of projects. Projects must be designed in a manner that will ensure transparency and accountability to both investors and the government and people of Dominica. The ability for these projects to generate economic activities and to create jobs that are sustainable are also key considerations. Project developers and promoters must also have the wherewithal to complete the projects. The likelihood of completion and success are therefore critical factors that we consider before approving any project under our Citizenship by Investment program. In other words, quality over quantity remains our guiding principle. I wanted to say in later on in the speech, a few days ago, on November 3rd, in my independence address, committed myself to the people of Dominica to work hard to build a stronger and more resilient Dominica. Today, I give you the same commitment. As Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, I pledge my commitment to work with all agents, promoters, and developers of our Citizenship by Investment program to build a world-class product. I also give the commitment to our partners that we stand ready to work with you to ensure that our program is being used for lawful purposes and not for nefarious activities that can undermine peace and security throughout the world. Dominica always stands ready to live up to its international obligations to the family of nations with the greatest regard to non-interference, territorial integrity, and peaceful coexistence. Earlier in the speech, I indicated I was talking about the confidence in our program. I said such an unprecedented achievement is an endorsement of the policies of government, including our management of our CBI program. As Prime Minister and Chairman of the Cabinet of the Government of Dominica, I have ensured that our program maintains the highest level of integrity, while at the same time making the program attractive to investors. Our own internal validation and verification policies, coupled with strong due diligence and adherence to international obligations, have been the guiding principles of our program. While we are in dire need of investments and investors, we are committed to safeguarding the integrity of the program, as well as the reputation of our country and implications of our citizens in the medium and long term. So, what we've been saying consistently to our promoters and agents and prospective applicants is that there shall be no compromising of our due diligence process. And this is why we continue to work bilaterally and multilaterally with international partners who continue to review our checks and balances, who continue to review our processes, and who have been giving us the thumbs up and stamp of approval in terms of the integrity of our program. So we look forward, coming out of this visit, the opportunity. I know some people have raised the issue, what is Dominica going to do in Vietnam, for example? I mean, Vietnam is an emerging economy. Vietnam has gone through a very long and difficult history, but they're resilient people just like us, and they have been able to bounce back from this and turn the country into a very strong and prosperous nation. And I was of high commendation to the Vietnamese government and the Vietnamese people for their efforts. And the number of things I believe we can learn from them. But they were also the second largest source market, for example, for the EB5 program administered by the United States government. As though the US government has a program similar to our economic citizenship program, where you can invest in a project. I believe it would have been $800,000 or $500,000 US dollars, and you would have received residency status in the United States. And they were very successful. The US was very successful in achieving its quota, under this program. So the number of countries who have this similar program that we have, albeit offering different aspects and different products and so forth. The final point I would like to make to you is that we also had discussions with the government of China and the ambassador of China here in Dominica. And the Chinese government has indicated that they in response to Tropical Storm Erica, the government of China will do a number of things for us in Dominica. One, the Chinese government has indicated its commitment to financing the reconstruction of the West Coast Road. And that would include the bridges, and that would include the failures we've seen, the landslides have undermined the roads, and a number of other interventions that will mitigate against the occurrence of this coming happen. This is a major, in our mind, a major commitment of assistance from a friendly nation. And we're very grateful to the government and people of China for this pledge of commitment to us. And of course, this is good news for all Dominicans. We should be thankful and grateful to the Chinese government. The Chinese government has also indicated its commitment to assist with the resettlement of those displaced and those who've had to leave their homes for one reason or the other, and who've had to abandon their homes for one reason or the other. The Chinese government will be also assisting with this. So these are two critical areas where the Chinese government will be assisting Dominica in its reconstruction and recovery efforts and its commitment to building back better. So I would like to place on public record, on behalf of the government and people of Dominica, our sincerest gratitude to the government and people of China for this generous offer. And I must make mention that this is a grant. It's not a loan from the Chinese government. It's a grant, and it's a gift to us in response to the storm. We've also received updates in respect to the hospital. The new hospital will be constructed by the Chinese. So notwithstanding the storm, notwithstanding the additional commitments, or notwithstanding the additional commitments that we have, or the existing commitments, the Chinese are giving us further assistance and so forth. So the storm has not affected the commitment of the Chinese government to us on a number of projects which we've spoken about before. One of which is of great importance to the people of Dominica, is the hospital, the new hospital. And we should have the groundbreaking ceremony construction commence in the first quarter of 2016. Now that everything has been settled between both sides, the Chinese government is now going through the procurement process of tendering and selecting a contractor to build a hospital for us. And the Chinese government has also given us an additional assistance with regards to the hospital. As you know, based on advice from the Ministry of Health officials, we have decided to build the hospital at the present site. There are challenges for that, because you have to be constructing a new hospital while at the same time running a 24/7 operations. And based on the schedule of implementation, a section of the hospital must be demolished to bring in the new section. It's not a new clear site, or you don't have enough land at the PMH site to be able to build while the old hospital remains, and after you could demolish it. One of the challenges that posed to us from a financial standpoint was the issue of temporary accommodation for the hospital. And the Chinese government have offered to us to finance the temporary accommodation for the hospital. So those sections that will be demolished, they will provide temporary housing facilities that will meet the requirements while we construct the hospital. So this is a significant amount of money that the government of Dominica would have had to fetch on its own, that we now do not have to do it because of the offer of the government of China. And again, this is a major plus. And also, we will see the commencement in the first quarter of next year, if all goes well, the commencement of the Layu Valley Bridge. That's also a grant from the government of China for the Layu Valley Bridge. So we look forward to commencement of that. Again, I've been advised by the Chinese officials, by the Chinese ambassador, that tender process has started, and once they issue a contract, then we shall see commencement. But we're placing a target of the first quarter of 2016 for commencement. The final point with regards to our relations with the People's Republic of China has to do with the Newtown Primary School. The Newtown Primary School is essentially completed. They're now installing furniture and fixtures. The furniture and fixtures were also made part of the construction of the school. So the Chinese government, on top of building the school for us, have agreed to furnish the school, again saving us, significant sum, because it's a huge school. as you would recognize, and furniture for schools are not usually cheap. So it's monies that are being saved, and based on the generosity of the government of China. The Minister for Education had made a particular request as the minister to the Chinese ambassador for outfitting the school with the technology that's available, laptops and so forth. And the Chinese government, Chinese ambassador, have graciously approved of that request to provide the school students and the staff with the technology required. And of course, the school, the entire compound of the school will be Wi-Fi. Every classroom will have access to the internet, enhancing students' access to the technology and to a reservoir of information, research opportunities, and what also getting us closer as a country to universal access to the internet, universal access to a computer device. And I think we well know with regards to that, and we thank the government of China. This is what I really wanted to say to the country. We look forward with great expectation to the donors meeting, because it's an important meeting. It's critical, after a storm, you must have that kind of meeting to continue the dialogue. And as we always said, we have to be patient in the country. We have to be understanding. Everything we ask the government, it costs money. Nothing is free. You understand? Even the services we provide to you cost a lot, but you don't pay much to enjoy the benefit. So we have to understand that there have to be new priorities. We have to redirect the resources. We have to reallocate resources to address the more critical and urgent challenges we have, and to ensure that we can do it in an organized fashion, we can do it in a managed fashion, and we can do it in a better way than we did before we passed it to tropical storm Erica. As the leader of the country, I have quadrupled my efforts, quadrupled my commitments, quadruple my diligence, because you're required to be focused on the task. It's not an easy task. It's a very difficult and challenging task to raise the financing and to get things moving, because at the end of the day, everybody can say what has to be done. Everybody can say what must be done. Everybody can say what should be done. But at the end of the day, everything costs money, and there are not many people out there outside the government who are raising funds on behalf of the government. So we have to raise those funds. We have to go there and raise those funds. And by the grace of God, I believe we'll be successful. Of course, hearing from our friends, the Chinese government, this is a major plus for us. Because certainly, I'm not an engineer, but common sense, and that the bridges which we have to build them differently. You understand? We have to look at piling. Instead of just building this abutment, we have to pile. We have to make sure that we have a solid foundation, so that whatever water comes, the bridge can be sturdy. We have to go in some cases as deep as 25, 30 feet in terms of piling. The width of the bridges would have to be much long. The length, much longer. The span has to be much longer. We cannot narrow. We should not narrow the water flow. The stomach has told us and instructed us that this is my natural space. Do not interrupt it. And therefore, in the reconstruction, rebuilding efforts, those things must be taken into consideration. And this is why hydrologic studies are critical. That will inform the construction of the bridges. And so we are pursuing. We have we have funds from the CDB for the Layu area. It's a loan that we contracted before the storm. We have monies from the World Bank that we've had to redirect in some cases to critical interventions. We had gone to Parliament to contract a loan, and also part of that arrangement with the World Bank, there was a grant component of it. So, and of course the European Union, there was an existing contract, for parts of the East Coast, because the East Coast for us, as we continue to say, is critical. We have had experts out there doing the field study of the entire West Coast, looking at the issues there and to advise us, because in the government's respectful view, there has to be a comprehensive response on the West Coast. This was a commitment we made before the storm. And we spent a lot of time speaking about this during the campaign, and it is entrenched in the manifesto, for example, that the West Coast is a critical area, and we have to address the issue of the West Coast, or the East Coast, sorry. And the storms continue to remind us that this is something that you must do, and you have to do it sooner rather than later. So. A comprehensive route, because it is not a very stable place, and we have to ensure that the proper studies are done, by the experts, and that we can implement this project properly. I want to, of course, the resettlement of people will continue to work on. I want to thank you for listening to me. I will now moving forward with a lot of questions.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Just to inform the media that you state your name and the media also represent, and we're sticking with the issues that the Prime Minister spoke to this morning.
Yep.
No, you can.
Once I can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, Prime Minister, as you alluded to, the OECS authority meeting and the donors meeting coming at a time when, of course, Dominica continues to grapple with financial constraints compounded by the passage of Tropical Storm Erica. I wanted to look at the issue of debt forgiveness, although this, of course, is a matter for the donors. But how important would that be on our agenda? Because you also mentioned that Dominica has to inform the donor community as to what it needs. The issue of debt forgiveness, of course, is left to the World Bank. But in a case like Dominica, of course, on many years of a tropical storm, how important would a matter like that be?
I mean, it's a very important matter. Some countries, for example, some organizations, which Dominica is a member, have suspended Dominica's contribution for a period of time until we can recover. One case in point is the Commonwealth that has suspended our payments in light of the storm and deferred our payments for 2015, 2016. And a number of other organizations have done that, in recognition of the fact that Dominica is under critical financial strain and would require all the help it can get, as small as that help might be, whether it's $1,000 from a school in Barbados, to $50 million from a country. Debt forgiveness is an important element. As there's some countries, some organizations, some institutions which do not engage in debt forgiveness because of the structure of their mandate. They can deal with debt restructuring, but they may not deal with debt forgiveness. But we have, just to say to you that we have started the process of engaging those whom the state owes, or who the state has contracted loans with. So we're in discussions with them already. Those discussions have started. But it is like a catch-21, It's catch-22, they say? Catch-22? 22. I was saying 21, I don't know why. But catch-22, that in the process of negotiating debt forgiveness, you may very well find yourself limiting your opportunities for contracting loans, even if at concessionary terms. Because somebody say, well, look, boss, you just ask for debt forgiveness. You cannot pay. Okay, I'll approve it for you. Okay, so if you owe 10 million, we'll approve the debt forgiveness of 10 million. But tomorrow morning, you may very well have to go back to that same institution or country that you requested debt forgiveness when you received, to say that I need a loan. Now, Mark, you keep telling people that you going to the bank to get a loan is no different from the government going to a bank to get a loan. because you have to bring to the bank your salary slip, a letter from your employer. You see what I'm saying? And they will tell you, okay, my friend from DBS, I'm fine, you have a nice voice in DBS, you read news well, you're a good reporter and so on. You know, we know you, you know, but when I look at your salary slip, I mean, you go home with less than what you have to pay monthly. So they may even either go through a debt consolidation for you, where you take all the loans from different institutions and they give you one loan and say you owe one institution rather than 5. They may tell you, well, you know, you spend too much money on your cell phone, you have to cut this off, you know, if you were to do this. It may tell you that you have to drive a vehicle less because the cost that you say you own your vehicle is too high. So, in other words, a country just can't go to a country and say, give me a loan. There's information, documentation that you must provide those institutions, those countries, in order to contract a loan. And therefore, this is why we keep saying always that we must ensure that this country always meets its obligations to its creditors. You know, and sometimes we, the citizens, want us to take decisions that can hamper our opportunities down the road. You know, so it is something that you know. I've heard you talking in the public and so on, but you know, from my experience here, you know, being Minister of Finance for the last 12 years, you know, that we have to be very careful how we approach it. You understand? And the case that we make, even if you have a storm, because the storm itself places difficulties on your fiscal position. You understand? As we reported to you some months ago, the drop in the VAT revenue, for example. So it's something that it is part of the agenda. It is part of the consideration. We have started to discuss with those whom we owe. I have in fact gone further as Minister of Finance and written to some of our partners and multilateral organizations, institutions, on the issue of debt forgiveness or the restructuring, or in some cases deferring the commencement or suspending the payments of the interest and penalties for a period of time to allow us to recover. So there are a number of elements in respect to your debt that you have to take into consideration.
Can I say GIS?
Sure.
In the same line of questioning, seeing that we've got a request from the Chinese government for certain things, I would like to know, going into the donors meeting, what is priority for them?
Well, we stated priorities publicly, and you know, one of the priorities for the government is the resettlement of people. You know, we really have to move to get the people out of the shelters and out of the temporary housing, because you know, unless the people are settled, their lives are not going to be in the usual motion it is. So that's a critical component to us. And you would have received updates on the efforts we made with regards to that. And if you to ask me, I find that we have moved very quickly. I mean, a small country, but that in large measure because of the generosity of the government of Venezuela, and even the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We made a commitment of 10 homes in the first instance, 2 and 3 bedrooms. And I would say every little helps, you know. Foundations have been built in the center area in Grand Bay for the first 50, you know, commenced in. And I know there was a misquote of me about, I said 500 homes being built. I mean, come on, I mean, you know, I mean, if 500 homes, I would tell people no homes have been built. You know, I would say 500 homes are built, you know. As you know, you the media saw a misquote a number of things that we have to call you may correct it or something. So these things happen. So I did not tell anybody that we built 500 homes. I mean, you know, but this made I understand people made a big issue out of it and sensationalized the stuff, you know. So the settlement is critical. We are very pushing for the connection of vertical, temporary. So this has been challenging, but we're making efforts there. We're pushing this very quickly. But the reinstatement of the infrastructure is also a critical priority for us. As you know, we've procured the solar lights. We're moving solar lights at the airport. because that is the quickest route, but also it will enhance our renewable energy pursuit. These lights have been tested by ECA. They've approved it. They reviewed the proposal for us. They give us advice. We have gone to countries where those lights are in place. For example, in Guyana, to see those lights functioning. The reports of that they've held up, and the manufacturers, the contractor, the service provider should be Dominica very soon to start the installation of those lights, so we can resume night landing in January, God's willing, of 2016. In discussions with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Public Works and the Committee on Infrastructure, we have decided to advance the signing of the contract for the reconstruction of the walls at the river, because every time it rains, all of us, who have this mandate, we get anxious, and so we have to move quickly to sign this contract, so work can commence on the actual construction of those river defense walls. What I would say to you, my friend from GIS, is that what we're seeking to do is because clearly you won't be able to do everything in 2016. You won't be able to do everything in 2017. And you certainly won't be able to do everything by 2018. It's going to take us about 7 to 10 years to really be able to finance the entire operations. Understand? And therefore you have to pace yourself with the resources that you have and the commitments that you have. Different countries, different organizations, different institutions have different procurement rules, and therefore those have to be followed. So all of these issues that you and I who walk the streets, who are not in the government system, who do not know, do not understand. And you hear people talk and say, well, as if, when you close your eyes and you open it a few minutes, you should see something happen. It is not as easy. I wish so easy as that, so I could get more sleep, but it is a challenge. So I want us to understand that we have to temper our expectations, but critically we have to ensure we build back better. We're not going to build any bridge, or we'll not accept any bridge that does not meet the requirements that we really need in this. If we're going to build a river defense wall, it must be properly done. You can't go 2 feet down, and once the river script is the 2 feet, then the wall exposed, the foundation exposed. So all of these things we have to look at, and we're seeking advice from concrete experts, to ensure that the formula that is used for the mixing of the concrete meets the standard that is required, that you do not shortchange the mix as a contractor. So all of these elements that we have to look at and get this sound advice on these things moving forward, so that in the event something were to happen, it would minimize the impact on the country. Of course, agriculture continues to be a critical area, and very soon we'll announce, coming out of the symposium, a series of measures which will be focusing on agriculture. And of course, we'll continue to provide support, both through legislation and in some limited way, some financial support to those in the private sector who've been affected by the tropical storm, to help them to get back as close as possible to pre-Erica situation.
Well, Prime Minister, you mentioned in the past, and you mentioned again today, the issue of the reallocation of funds.
Yeah.
And of course, it appears that we have had to do that a lot post-tropical storm Erica. What entails in a situation like that? Do you have to resubmit a proposal? Do you have to go back again to the drawing board to get these funds for the project? Of course, you have to reallocate.
No, that's a very, 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 very important question. We take decisions within the government on the country's position. So what we have done, we've looked at all of the areas of assistance that we had on the table prior to Tropical Storm Erica. And we've also looked at the budget statement and some of the projects, the important projects which we have indicated. A classic case in point, as I've said to the country before, we were on course to move with the indoor facility at Stockfarm. The Mexican government had given a firm commitment for $5 million to construct it. So we had the money secured for that. We're just in the process of going to tender for to do the design of the facility. When Tropical Storm Erica reached us, we were on the verge, for example, of making the first down payment for the comprehensive lighting of the playing fields initiative, which we had announced in the budget, for example, putting solar lights in many playing fields. That has had to be looked at. We also have to look at certain elements of the Roseau Enhancement Program to defer them. We are continuing the design works so that we have the proposal so we have to defer some of them. But critically, the retaining walls and the new West Bridge. The West Bridge is part of the emergency works. So we have to build the West Bridge. And of course, those of us who were in Dominica and who were born before, the China Friendship Bridge and the bridge across from the stadium and the improved bypass between Bath Estate and Emsel, Santa Roma, sorry. Can you imagine if we did not have the China Friendship Bridge and we did not have the bridge across from the stadium, and then we had this little narrow path, footpath, that we call a bypass at between Santa Roma and Bath Estate, and we were very, very, very heavily criticized for the China Friendship Bridge. We heavily criticized for people said that the government talking nonsense. You can never build a bridge on a road by Rose Street. That can never happen, and people remained dumbfounded when we did that. So, because the West Bridge was literally out of commission for several days. Eventually, we decided to have no, it was all completely, closed completely, and then you had the East Loblaw Bridge compromised a bit. So you could imagine the challenge you would have of getting in and out of Roseau, the backing up of vehicles every day. So these are things that we have to look at going forward in our reconstruction and our commitment to build back better. And of course, you're right. Once you take a decision to reallocate, it is not off. It is not done. The final approval is not done by us, because you have to consult with he who is giving the money, because they also have rules. They also have procurement procedures. So, for example, the European Union funds under the BAM, the government met, and based on advice from our technical people, we decided to reallocate resources. So, for example, we decided to put more resources for feeder roads. Okay, we decided to put a component for the Bay Oil industry, and cut certain areas. But herein lies the challenge, and I think that's where the question is so important, is that by going that route, you also run the risk of delaying the implementation of the original project, because my friend from DBS is correct. You would have to resubmit documents, and you would have to go through the whole process again, which can be a bit lengthy and prolonged. So all of these things, we have to be dealing with within the government system, to engage and so forth, to discuss. So we continue to discuss with them, and we're hoping that, but some of the organizations, some of the banks, for example, the World Bank and the CDB, have indicated that they will treat these projects as emergency. So some of the monies we have from the World Bank, we're working with them very closely with a view to fast tracking the procurement rules, because they're our friends, but they can be very long. And we say so all the time. We don't say so too loudly these last few years, because they were good partners, so we quarrel with them in closed rooms rather than openly. And they've been very helpful. The World Bank and the European Union have been exceptional. Ambassador Barford has been an exceptional friend of Dominica in these times, and he's been really lobbying for us. It's almost as if he's Dominica's ambassador to EU. And that's how many of his colleagues view him, because of his strong advocacy on behalf of Dominica.
Any other question?
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much for being here, and of course, we'll continue to update you on matters, and we look forward to your coverage of the donors meeting and the OECS authority meeting. I believe that the media has been invited to cover aspects of it, and we look forward to it. And we want to thank you for your willingness to continue to disseminate the information. And we'll continue to avail ourselves. We're coming back to the monthly press briefing. But nothing prevents you from time to time, as most of you do, to call on us on a bilateral basis if you have specific questions you may want to ask for us, or particular information which you believe that the public would need to have from time to time. Right. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless Dominica.